one of the stars of Welcome to Chippendales, which is on Hulu right now. All the first 3 episodes available for streaming. Kumail Nanjiani, good to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
This is a fun show, and I'm wondering, how did you first come about saying, okay, I'll do Welcome to Chippendales? How did that work for you?
Well, so Rob Siegel, the creator of it, came to me, and people don't know this. Everyone knows what Chippendales is, you know, so. But really the story is it's a true crime show, because people don't know this. One, the guy who founded Chippendales was this like really nerdy, pudgy Indian guy. He was an immigrant. Mm-hmm. You know, you think of Chippendales as this very American thing, but it was this like guy from another part of the world that came up with it. And the other thing people don't know is that behind the scenes of Chippendales, the first 10 years, there are multiple murders. Many, you know, people got murdered. This guy who I play, he starts off as this innocent but turns darker and darker. It's really about this guy's descent into evil in a way. And I start off as this fun guy, and I end up, you know, I start setting fire to other strip clubs. And the story,
it's like Breaking Bad meets Chippendales right here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if Scarface was a brown guy, you know? And the story really is me and the character Murray plays. He's the creative guy. I'm the money guy. And the show really is about us starting to sort of butt heads, and the tension between us grows and grows and grows. And it's really about these two really hating each other and what they'll do to sort of stop each other. And I mean, no spoilers, but everybody's dead. All these people are now dead.
In real life?
In real life, they're all dead, and they did not die from natural causes.
Damn!
Yeah, so it's a really wild story. I really love this show because, you know, I've never gotten to play a character like this. Like, I don't know, can I swear on this?
Well,
I won't.
Yeah, okay.
I won't. He's a real piece of work, this guy.
Yeah.
He's a real motherfather.
My stomach literally dropped, and I'm glad you said the author.
Is that okay?
It's fine.
All right,
yes.
All right. I won't do it anymore. I've never gotten to play a guy like this, you know, who really like goes full evil and does a lot of bad, violent stuff. It was really fun to play, and the show itself is really fun too.
So when you're looking at the scripts, you were just learning along with pretty much anybody who's probably watching the show that this is some pretty dark stuff that was behind this.
Yeah, so I knew before, you know, so Rob came to me and was like, hey, the founder of Chippendales was an Indian guy. Do you want to do this? And I was like, I'll be honest, it does not sound interesting to me. Like a guy who runs like a male strip club is not exactly, you know, it wasn't like my dream as a kid in Pakistan. Like someday I want to play the guy who started Chippendales. But then he told me the story, and he told me what happens episode by episode. Yes. He's like, you know, because at first I said no, and then he kept coming back to me. And he's this, you know, he did Pam and Tommy, he did The Wrestler, he did The Founder. He's done these sort of character portraits of very dark characters.
Sure.
And he told me what happens episode by episode. And I kept stopping him to be like, did that really happen? And he's like, yeah, that happened. Did that really happen? Yeah, that happened. Multiple murders. There's a part in the series where my character gives away the touring rights to Murray's character on a napkin at House of Pies. Like, I just sign a contract on a napkin, and then spend the rest of my life trying to nullify that contract. But if it's on a piece of paper with a signature, that's a valid contract. And so that's what really ends up like ruining him, is this like little napkin contract that he wrote at the House of Pies. So it's a wild story. So much wild stuff happens.
And it's available on Hulu right now. Episodes 1 through 3 available for streaming. New episodes drop, as the kids say, every single Tuesday. Kumail Nanjiani here on the Rich Eisen Show. Last time you were was about 5 years ago. You were professing a love for basketball. Do you still have your love of hoops in any way, shape, or form?
I like how you said professing as if I was lying.
No.
Like,
not at all. That's just my way of talking.
I went to Wikipedia.
There's no offense. There's no
I
offense.
know, I'm joking.
No,
but before I came, I went to Wikipedia, looked up basketball, and I was like, okay, if it's outside the line, they get 3 points. No, I'm joking. I love basketball. I haven't checked in this season yet. I sort of, because, you know, my team, the Bulls, haven't been contenders in a while.
Sure.
So I sort of start checking in around like right before the All-Star break.
Okay.
And then I really get into it, and then I watch all the playoffs and the finals and everything. But
yes,
I'll mention a sport that I don't think any of your listeners really care about,
which is cricket.
Cricket.
Okay.
And I just watched the World Cup. The T20 Cricket World Cup just finished a couple weeks ago. And,
okay. And so walk me through that. Make me a cricket fan.
Okay. Well, how much time do you have?
Well, not for a cricket match. That's for damn sure. Because don't they sometimes last like a full, 2-3 days?
Well,
longer?
the format, the most popular format,
yes,
lasts about the length of a basketball game. So it's about 3 hours.
Okay, fantastic.
Great. Very reasonable.
All right.
But
color me interested.
The original form was 5 days. You're out. And then they shortened it to the 1 day, and it was called the 1 day, and it was a full 12-hour game. And now it's 3 hours. Very reasonable.
So they have pace of play questions just like Major League Baseball, is what you're saying. People were saying, let's make it shorter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The kids were, as you said, sort of losing interest. So what happened was Pakistan ended up, I'm from Pakistan. That's my team.
Yes.
The matches would happen at like 1 a.m. because it was in Australia, or 4 a.m. And I would get up in the morning at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have it recorded. I wouldn't touch my phone, and I watched the match as if it was live.
You went through sports blackout to make sure that you were not having any spoiler alert on the results of your cricket match.
Completely zero contact. And there was once where I called my parents.
You can't do that.
No, I know it was a mistake. And I was like, I told my dad as soon as I called, I was like, hey, don't tell me what happens. And then we talked for a little bit, and then I heard my mom in the background yelling, "We won!" I was like, Mom, no.
When you're in sports blackout, you cannot pierce the bubble for anybody or anything.
So what's the strategy for the sports bubble? You got to teach me. I'm new to this.
You wake up and you do nothing but turn on the television.
Really?
That's it. You can't do it. You can't do it because it's on you. You clearly can't blame your mom for that sort of thing.
I am blaming her.
Well, that's what we all do as sons.
Yeah.
Just blame your mother for the problems.
Well, I mean, it was adorable because she was so excited. But in the beginning of the tournament, Pakistan lost 2 big, easy matches, and we were out of the tournament except like mathematically. Mm-hmm. And then everything just perfectly aligned. The bad teams beat the good teams, and the good teams, it was like it perfectly. And then we beat all the best teams. We ended up going to the finals where we beat South Africa. Uh-huh. Then we got to the finals and we were crushed by England yet again.
So are there shows like this one where people call in and complain about the cricket match and things like that? Long-time listeners, first-time callers who are bitching and complaining about it? Does that exist?
There's a show called The Pavilion, which is sort of like the dugout is what we call it, The Pavilion.
Yes.
And there are 4 like sort of Pakistani cricketing legends who do right after the match, they talk and they break it down. And it's amazing because it's so cathartic. Like you really feel everything they're going through. And I would watch that right afterwards. Even if we lost, they would just be like so angry and yelling. And it was like, okay, great.
I love that.
That's how I'm feeling on the inside. But, we wanted revenge for colonialism. Didn't get it this time. We'll see. The stakes are really high, Rich.
In colonialism? Or
yeah,
cricket?
I mean, they have like stuff they stole from us in their museums. We just want this cricket game. Let us have this World Cup for 2 years. You have our crown jewels that you've had for decades. Can we have this for 2 years?
That's
nope,
so
they were
funny.
really good.
Kumail Nanjiani here on the Rich Eisen Show. I have a list of items that we have read about you, sir, and we play a game here with our celebrity guests called Celebrity True or False, where I mention them and you tell me if it's true or false, or it's just the internet that's just being scandalous.
Okay, great.
Okay, we have some terrific production value to kick us off. Hit it, please.
Celebrity True or False?
You can't handle the truth.
There you go. You ready for it? Does that set the stage for you?
Yeah, my God, I am so amped.
There you go.
By the way, I watched that clip of Jack Nicholson in Few Good Men to prepare for a scene in Welcome to Chippendales, streaming now on Hulu, the first 3 episodes.
That's true?
Yeah.
Which scene did you do?
There's a big moment in that show that I don't want to... It's sort of later, after a lot of bad stuff has happened. Now the FBI is involved. And there's a moment where it's like, is he going to get caught or not? And I was like, I want to have like a moment here that's like the Jack Nicholson moment that like he gets angry and sort of righteously in his own way exposes everything he's done. And I wanted that kind of moment in our show.
Okay.
And so I watched that clip a bunch of times. It's a great acting job.
You think? I mean, we've had so many, we've had Rob Reiner on here, we've had Kevin Bacon on here, Kevin Pollak on here, and they each have their own version of telling the story of how Jack did it. What, about 20 times? He was the one who did it off camera for all the other actors, and he did it the same every single time.
Really?
True story. That's true.
I've thought about that because that scene, as an actor, you're like, wow, that scene is like a 25-minute long scene. Do you shoot it all in one day? Do you break it up? How do you do it?
They did break it up, and he did it when he was off camera and everyone was reacting to him. He did it.
He did it full speed.
Full speed every single time. Yeah. And Rob Reiner said, "Do you want to take some time off?" And he did the imitation of Nicholson, saying, "You don't understand. I love to act." So
really?
Yeah, it's great stuff. That's now the bar we're going to leap over right here with Celebrity True or False with Kumail Nanjiani. First one, true or false, Kumail? You have a fear of horses. True or false?
I don't really have a fear of horses, I wouldn't say. I think I am as scared of them as any human being would be. It's like a car that can think, I mean, that is in itself a terrifying thing.
With emissions? They have emissions
They have emissions. You've seen the emissions. They may not ruin the atmosphere, but they ruin, where they were just now. I had to ride horses for a movie, and I realized, this is like I'm trying to control a car, except it has its own brain. So that was scary to me, but I wouldn't say...
Okay.
But when you're sitting on a horse, it's like a lot of muscle. It's a very...
And what happens without controlling it? That's the way I feel about skiing. How do you stop when you're going downhill?
Right. Man versus gravity. Gravity is always going to win. You ski long enough, you're going to regret it.
All right. So true-ish, false-ish, it's right in the between?
If there was a horse over there, I'm not going to start freaking out.
Okay, good.
But if you're would you get on the horse? I'd be like, can you find someone else?
Understood. Next one, true or false, Kumail? You decided to start a stand-up career after you were impressed by Hugh Grant's performance in 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Yeah. Wow, you're really painting me as sort of this coward because I'm I don't. But it's true. It's true.
Why? I mean, why am I painting you as a coward? You're inspired by it.
Well, I'm sort of you're I really was inspired by Hugh Grant. He does this best man speech in it, and it's really, really fantastic. And I realized years later that my first 5 years of doing stand-up on stage were just my impression of Hugh Grant in 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Is that right?
Yeah, because, I was he's handsome, he has great hair, he's funny, women love him. It was everything I wasn't, and so, Hugh Grant was... I still, by the way... I've been a fan of Hugh Grant's forever, and now everyone's like, oh my God, Hugh Grant's an amazing actor. He's got all this range. And I'm like, yeah, I've been here the whole time. He's so good.
Next one, true or false? You pitched Judd Apatow a film called Ghost Witch, but wound up adapting your real-life love story that became the Oscar-nominated screenplay The Big Sick. Is that true?
Yeah, the movie was not called Ghost Witch. Okay. It was about a ghost witch. So that is... I'll say it's true. I was like, it's about a ghost who's also a witch. She was a witch, then she dies, and she comes back as a ghost, and she's still a witch. And he said, do you have any other ideas? And then I said, well, my wife was, my girlfriend at the time was in a coma, and that's how I met her family. And we fell in love sort of over this crazy, tragic event. And he said, okay, yeah, let's try that. And if that doesn't work, we'll go back to Ghost Witch. And Ghost Witch never happened.
And it's amazing how things come about, right? I mean,
that
is incredible.
I'm so grateful to Judd for, giving me that chance when kind of nobody else would. And also recognizing he was like, you got to write about stuff that means something to you. It's got to be personal. It can't just be like a great idea you had that's clever. It's got to really come from inside you. And that's a lesson I still try and, carry with me in everything I do.
Sure. Next one for you here. True or false? You auditioned for 2 roles in Silicon Valley. Didn't get them, but Mike Judge created a whole new character for you anyway.
That's absolutely true. So I auditioned for Ehrlich, who's played by T.J. Miller, and this character named Big Head, who is played by Josh Brenner, who's not in that picture. I was so nervous for this audition. I've been a big fan of, Mike Judge's. Beavis and Butthead. Have you watched much Beavis and Butthead?
Not lately.
There's new Beavis and Butthead on, I think it's on Paramount. It's just as good as the original.
I did not know that. I got to get in on that because that is brilliant. Office Space as well.
Office Space. These movies, and these shows loom so large for me. So they were like, Mike's doing an HBO show. Would you want to audition? And I said yes, and I'd found out, before Christmas, and the audition was next year, so I had 2 months to get really nervous. I went in, I read these 2 parts, and I thought they went well. I was like, okay, that was a good audition. I did my best, and if nothing else, I get to meet Mike Judge. And they called me afterwards. They're like, we don't think you're right for this, but we're going to write you a character. and people say that all the time, where they're like, "You're not right for this, but we'll find something." And then a few weeks later, I got a call and they said, "Hey, we've written this character for you. You don't have to audition for it again. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Really? Yeah." I'm getting emotional talking about it. So yeah, they created this character for me, and I ended up doing that show with Mike for 6 years.
That is so cool. And is it true then too that the math in the famous tip-to-tip efficiency scene was actually checked out and verified by PhDs from Harvard?
I think it might have been Stanford, but
Stanford.
Yes, I
Okay.
think. I'm not sure. But I mean, I don't think we could talk about the specifics of this scene.
Because it took forever, right? It didn't to shoot it?
It
Or
took
no?
forever to shoot it, but I mean, the specific of the scene, I think, are like too adult for.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that scene is about. You don't know what that.
No, I do know what it's about
Yeah,
now. I get it.
yeah,
I get it. I know
okay.
it. Yes.
So it's like it's a very vulgar act.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's like I don't know. I don't want to say anything. But
Understood.
It's a vulgar act.
Welcome to Chippendales.
Welcome to Chippendales. Actually, wow, there's a real there's
Synergy.
a real
There's
theme
synergy.
to my career. Yeah.
But it was checked out by actual PhDs.
Yeah, so it's about this sort of like somebody comes up with this vulgar idea, and then we get obsessed with doing the math of it.
Yes.
And so there are like all this math about doing this thing, and we did. They got it checked out by real. I believe it was Stanford PhDs, and they came up with all the math for it.
Fantastic.
The hardest part of doing that scene was not laughing and also remembering what to write, because it's gobbledygook to us. You saw what that was.
Yeah, I can't figure it out.
Makes no sense. And I was, stereotypically pretty good at math. But that was beyond my skill set.
How about spelling? Good too?
Great at spelling, except I throw U's into random things, again, because of colonialism.
Look at you. A last one for you that's outside of
Like
true or false.
honneur and flavor and...
Look at you. So what was it like to be an Obi-Wan? That was I remember just because those shows, these Star Wars TV series, we sit down as a family and watch them.
You do?
Yes.
And you liked Obi-Wan?
Love it. It was great. It was great to see you in it too.
Oh, thank you. It was really, really sort of a dream come true that I couldn't even dare to dream, the hard thing about doing something like Star Wars is I have to go in and be like, I'm just doing a job. I'm not doing Star Wars, because otherwise I'll get paralyzed,
Sure.
But it's really hard because you're like, I'm just doing a random show and everyone is carrying lightsabers and blasters and looks like I'm in a cantina. And this guy looks a lot like Obi-Wan that I'm talking to right now. So I had one real moment where I froze, because I went and I met Ewan and he's a lovely guy, and we were sort of hanging out before we started shooting, and it was so normal and awesome, and then they yell action, and the first scene we shot is the scene where we meet, and he comes in and he starts speaking, and I completely froze, because I was like, I'm not talking to you, and I'm talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi right now.
Right, that's
because
cool.
it's such a specific performance, and he's so good. So it was, man, honestly, one of the most joyful experiences I've had on set, and part of it is because you're doing Star Wars, and everybody's so excited to be there. So my character in it is this guy who's, I can give it away. It's been out for a long time. He's like a guy who's pretending to be a Jedi, so he's like a fake Jedi. So I have this fake lightsaber in the show. And that fake lightsaber, the prop master for the show, it's the lightsaber that he made for himself when he was 20 years old. And he brought it to me, and he was like, I want you to have it for this character. And I was like, everybody's always wearing Star Wars shirts. Everybody was just so excited to be working on a Star Wars. And you saw his performance, absolutely one of the greatest actors of all time. So to be able to act with someone of that caliber right next to you, it's really, really remarkable. It's a feeling that's hard to describe. The other thing that's great about him, is when you yell cut, no matter how intense the scene is, he's just back to you and goofing around and fun.
Come on, really?
Yeah, man. And then it's like action, and then he's like on the floor screaming at the sky, tears down his face, cut. Tears somehow disappear. He doesn't even wipe them. They go back in his eyes. And then he's back to normal. I mean, truly a tremendous, tremendous person and actor. And I'm glad you liked the show.
It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah,
I loved it. I mean, it was really awesome. The kids loved it, and it's like appointment viewing where you sit down. And there's not enough stuff on TV for an entire family to just sit down.
Yeah, unfortunately, Welcome to Chippendales is not.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening.
It's. Did you watch Andor? Have you guys seen Andor yet?
We haven't gotten into that yet. My wife sat down with our 9-year-old daughter and watched the first episode. She said it's a little bit more adult. Like it was a little
That's
bit
what
more.
I've heard.
It was kind of like a 9-year-old needed a little bit more help in trying to follow the plot. So
that's what I've heard.
It's amazing. I've heard it's spectacular.
I've heard it gets better and better, and that by the end, it's one of the best Star Wars things ever made. I haven't started it yet.
But it's so cool that you got to be in one and
I
have
know.
an actual lightsaber the prop master made. Again, it's a handle, right? It doesn't. There was no.
No. There's no light that comes out of it. They don't have that technology. But the other thing that they do, we don't have lightsaber technology yet.
Okay.
The other thing that they do is they shoot in this dome where they project the world on the walls. So you're sort of like, it would be, even the stuff indoors, so it would be like none of this is really here. It's a dome, and they're projecting that wall onto the screen. So the great thing is spaceships, walking around, it's all like that. So if I'm like doing a scene with someone, usually it's blue screen and you have to pretend you're flying through space.
Yeah.
Here you don't have to. You really look outside the window and it's Star Wars right out the window.
Jeez, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you can really, like, there was one scene I did where there were like rows of stormtroopers, all going all the way back. And the first row is real human beings, and behind that is a screen. And me sitting here, even if it's like 20 feet away, I can't tell the difference. I can't tell where the real ends and the fake begins.
Fantastic.
It's really amazing.
That is awesome. Welcome to Chippendales is released every Tuesday on Hulu. Episodes 1 through 3 are available now for streaming. I'll watch it when we're done with The Handmaid's Tale. It'll be great. It's a great time in my house.
Pam and Tommy, huge.
Yes, huge.
Yeah.
Big time. We'll go through the whole oeuvre at Kumail and on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for coming in here. Anytime.
Thank you so much for having me.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.